Ethan Hale never dreamed that his unassuming life as a devoted single father could spiral into a tale that felt as enchanting as it was terrifying. For years, he had created a fortress around his heart after the tragic loss of his wife in a car accident. Raising his spirited 8-year-old daughter, Lily, in the picturesque coastal town of Brookhaven, his existence revolved around school runs, his job at the repair shop, and those late-night sessions spent helping Lily with her homework. Love had become an alien concept to him, and he had every intention of keeping it that way. That all shifted on an unexpected autumn morning when the roar of helicopter blades pierced the tranquil silence, scattering rustling leaves across the pavement of his workshop. Ethan stepped outside, squinting against the gusts as a sleek black helicopter glided gracefully down near the cliffs. Out poured sharply dressed men, clearly not from around here, and trailing behind them was a woman in a wheelchair, elegantly wrapped in a cream shawl. Her delicate features and pale skin masked an unspoken sadness that seemed to dwell within her striking eyes. "Are you Ethan Hale?" one of the men inquired. Ethan nodded with measured caution. The man extended a sealed envelope towards him. "You have been selected to fulfill a contract. You are to marry Ms. Amelia Wren within the next 24 hours. Ethan chuckled, half convinced this was some sort of mix-up. However, as he unfolded the letter, signed by a prominent estate attorney and eerily mentioning his late wife's name, his hands began to tremble. It appeared that years ago, his wife's family had entered into a clandestine business arrangement with the Wrens, binding him to an old obligation. If he chose to decline, he stood to lose not just his home and his workshop, but also the guardianship of his beloved daughter. It seemed unthinkable, like a cruel twist of fate. Yet when Amelia's gaze locked onto his, filled with an aching plea, she spoke softly. "I don't want this any more than you do. But they've left us no choice." As the sun dipped below the horizon, they found themselves in the quaint town chapel, exchanging vows laden with disbelief. Lily clung to Ethan's side, confusion painted across her young face, while Amelia sat silently in her chair, a fragile outline against the flickering candlelight. When the final words were spoken, the men vanished as abruptly as they had arrived, leaving behind a haunting silence, and two souls entwined by circumstance and an unexpected vow. The first weeks were filled with an unusual tension. Amelia settled into the spare room at Ethan's unassuming home, where he made every effort to maintain a sense of normalcy for Lily. His mornings began with homemade breakfasts, school runs for Lily, and the mechanical hum of fixing cars. Occasionally, he would reach up to help Amelia grab things from high shelves. Yet, she barely spoke, often lost in thought, gazing out at the sea. Ethan assumed her silence stemmed from bitterness about her situation. But one fateful night, he overheard her soft cries, a haunting whisper spilling from her lips. "I didn't choose this life." His heart softened in that moment. Slowly, the walls between them began to crumble. Their conversations unfolded gently, revealing her story, a life shattered by a helicopter crash that left her paralyzed from the waist down. The fiancé, unable to cope, had vanished, and her affluent family arranged this precarious marriage, treating her like an unwanted burden. Ethan recognized the loneliness in her gaze. It echoed his own. As winter enveloped Brookhaven, their relationship evolved into something tender. They would share tea by the flickering fire, exchanging stories, his about Lily's late mother, hers about a life interrupted. He found her laughter echoing through the rooms one morning as she taught Lily how to paint. For the first time since her accident, she seemed truly alive. Yet, Ethan couldn't ignore the shadows that loomed over Amelia. Night after night, he'd hear her waking from nightmares, gripping her legs as if pleading for movement. He longed to offer her comfort, but felt helpless. Then, the storm struck. One night, fierce winds and rain battered the town. The unmistakable sound of rotor blades sliced through the tempest, the very same helicopter that had brought Amelia to this place. Men emerged, calling out her name. She went rigid with fear. "They've come to take me back," she confessed, her voice barely a whisper. "They believe they can control the inheritance if I vanish." Without a moment's thought, Ethan positioned himself in front of her, shielding her from the approaching men. "You're not going anywhere," he declared with unwavering determination. They attempted to intimidate him, but he stood his ground. When one of them reached for Amelia's wheelchair, instinct kicked in. He lifted her into his arms and kissed her, raw, desperate, and infused with emotions he had buried deep. And then, something extraordinary unfolded. Her fingers started to move. Her legs responded too. A gasp escaped her lips as sensations coursed through her, igniting waves of warmth and light. The men paused, their expressions frozen in disbelief, as she found her footing, shaky but resolute. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she whispered, "I can feel again." The helicopter roared to life, the figures retreating into the howling storm, leaving Ethan and Amelia in an electrifying silence, the dawn of a new beginning illuminating their path. In the weeks that followed, doctors came to call it nothing short of a miracle. Some ventured to say that her paralysis had roots in the psychological, a manifestation triggered by deep trauma, and that the flood of emotion finally shattered the mental chains that had held her captive. But Ethan dismissed all those theories. What mattered to him was that love achieved what no medicine ever could. Amelia decided to make Brookhaven her home. Together, she and Ethan transformed their tumultuous beginning into something profoundly real. Lily took to her with adoration, and in their cozy little house by the sea, laughter returned to fill the air. At times, when the wind carried the distant whir of blades across the cliffs, Ethan would steal a glance at the horizon, reflecting on how a reluctant marriage had morphed into a beautiful journey of healing. What began as a mere contract culminated in a kiss that empowered them to rise again, not just on their feet, but in the enchanting embrace of love.